Hi folks, I keep finding other flat tops. This is my Harmony H1270 12 string. I had my my Martin D1220 very special and lovely 12 string for quite some time, and I saw this on eBay, and there were two terrible photographs and very little conversation about it, but it entered my head that I would like one of these. When it arrived, I made a sort of deal with a guy. He sent it to me. It arrived with 11 strings, and I think they were as old as the guitar. It was filthy. It had a replacement pickguard on it that was almost as thick as the if not thicker than the top. It had a repaired hole in it. There are lots of marks and things. It's obviously been refinished around here. But the strange thing was, the action, which is always a problem with guitars and particularly with 12 strings, was perfect. So I put a decent set of strings on it, took it along to Dave, my tech, who did a few little nicks and tucks, but it had obviously had a neck reset, which is the important thing. You don't buy a guitar from the 60s without hoping to see some sign of a neck reset. I later found out, going on some strange British forums, that the chap that had it before the guy that I bought it from some years ago had virtually rebuilt it himself as an amateur, as a fun project, and he'd done an absolutely beautiful neck reset. The frets are in perfect condition, it's accurate, holds it beautifully. Some interesting features about this. First of all, it's a 2-inch nut, 25-inch scale, slotted headstock, which really is a pain to restring, not because of the headstock so much, but because of the tailpiece, which is very low to the body, not touching it, but not quite as high as the barrel of the guitar strings that you're putting into. This is a floating bridge, and it has 2 saddles. Very strange. The back saddle is a spacing saddle to keep the strings at the right condition, and the front one is the one that manages the action, of course. The other strange thing about this, which is unusual nowadays, well, we're talking about the mid-60s, they were in production from 1963 to 1971, by the way, is that this is ladder braced, like in the old days. So this is very much an ancestor, a descendant of the old Stella guitars. And it plays beautifully. I have it tuned down to D, like my Martin, and it's the only guitar that I put bronze strings on. It's raucous, it's jangly, it's what a 12 string should be. It has the same old Waverley tuners that most 12 strings of that period had, including Martin's had, and they're a little bit iffy, but they're still working okay. I haven't felt the need to change them. So there we are. This infers that it is later than 1968. You can find in most of them there's a stamp, a rubber stamp, that says when they were built. This one doesn't. I can see that it says 555 something H1270, but there should be another stamp inside which actually gives you the date and the quarter of the year in which it was built. They do it in seasons. and this lacks that, but it also looks as if the inside has been finished, varnished or something, stained, shall we say. So maybe that's just washed it out. I had the Pickguard taken off, and Dave, my tech at the time, had this rather nice one made. Well, he made it for me, and he stuck it on, and he's done a lovely job. So there we are, a harmony, not my only harmony. I've seen Brian Jones and Keith Richards playing these when they were just a local band, and everybody talks about Pete Townsend having one. In the 60s, it was about the only 12 string you could buy. There were some Gibsons around with very, very thin necks, and Martin didn't get into the game until 1964 with small numbers of the D12 version of guitars. A name to look for is Mike Russo on YouTube, and I'll give you a couple of links in the comments below. So it looks absolutely enormous. It's 16 1/8 wide, which isn't enormous, and it's 4 3/8 deep, which isn't exceptional, but it does seem enormous. But it does have an enormous sound. And the 2-inch nut doesn't seem to be a problem for me at all. I can do a bar chord without any problems. Quite a shallow C on the neck. There we go. H1270 harmony 12 string.